Welcome to The Warp, I'm Jack Rita. In this video, I'm going to be talking about a Cosmic Encounter variant that came out in the 1990s from Ken Cox called Prisoners. And it's a variant that you can actually do even in the Fantasy Flight Edition. You don't necessarily need any special components. Now, when it was first designed and proposed, it did suggest having Destiny cards that had a prisoner element on there. So I've got the horrible handcuffs here as the symbol, which I also put on the special aliens that also came out with it. But you're just having a Destiny card that has some kind of marking on it to show that it's different. So you could very easily just say whenever a hazard warning comes up, it's going to turn the encounter into a capture encounter. And what that means is at the end of the encounter, any ships that are lost to the warp are instead captured by the winning main player. So they're going to capture all of those ships and they're going to hold on to them. And then on subsequent encounters, if during the Destiny phase, if both main players have ships belonging to the other main player that they have captured, they can propose a little mini deal right there during the Destiny phase. And this deal must involve an exchange of prisoners, although they don't necessarily have to be prisoners belonging to those two main players. And it can also involve other things like colonies and, in this case, Lux and cards, anything that you could normally exchange in a deal. But it must involve an exchange of prisoners. And it has to be specific in terms of which prisoners and the numbers of them. And if I recall correctly, you can't have like specific cards, but you have to be specific about the numbers of cards. Anyway, I think you can pretty much, if you're going to use prisoners in a game of Cosmic Encounter, you can kind of set the rules however you want. It's a pretty interesting variant, and I think it's the reason I like it is because of the drain on the ship resource. I've always been fascinated with other ways to make your ship resource more important, more critical. It's the reason why I came up with the evolutions idea, because that does have a big drain on your ships. And it's why I like technology as well. You have one more little thing you've got to take in consideration. And ships and cards are the two main resources in the game, but everyone, I think, agrees the cards are more important, more valuable than the ships are. So anything that makes ships more interesting, I think, is a good thing. So in my home set here that I did in the 2000s, these are all aliens that you would only use in a game where you were using prisoners. I think probably one of the main reasons why prisoners has never shown up officially in a Fantasy Flight Edition is because there are so many prisoner aliens in there, and it would probably feel a little bit incomplete to not have them. But Fantasy Flight from the get-go has not been interested in aliens that you only use if you are using a variant, and if you're not using a variant, these aliens really can't be used. It's just a philosophy that they've never wanted to implement, and we've been adhering to that when we have designed expansions for the Fantasy Flight Edition of Cosmic Encounter. But as you can see, there's quite a few, and these are just the ones that I printed now. So this is a mix of the aliens that Ken Cox originally released, but a lot of my own in there, and a couple from other players in here. So I'm going to go through just a couple of them to give you an idea of what they do. So this one is called Enthrall, and it's the power to brainwash. So when you're a main player or ally, you add the number of prisoners to your side's total. So pretty straightforward on that one. Let's see. We've got the Inquisitor. This is the power to interrogate. So as a main player in an encounter after allies commit, but before cards are played, you draw one card from your opponent's hand for each of their ships that you hold in your prison. Look at the cards and return them to your opponent. Then if any of the cards you draw are encounter cards, your opponent must play one of these cards in the encounter if they can. So a little bit like Laser, but here you're getting a preview of the cards. So it's kind of wild. This one is called Brawl, the power to riot. When players hold your ship's prisoner, they must set aside an equal number of their ships from the colonies as guards. Guard ships may not be used in encounters, nor do they count as a colony. When more of your ships that a player holds prisoner are added, that player must immediately set aside a guard for each new ship or release all of the new ships to the warp. When prisoners leave, the players return an appropriate number of guards to any of their colonies. A player holding your ships in their prison may release any or all of them to the warp at the beginning of their encounter. So some of them, this would definitely be a red alert one. This one is Houdini. I have the power to escape at the start of each encounter in which you are the offensive player. Remove all of your ships from other people's prisons and return them to your colony. So it's basically a little bit like the zombie, kind of like the new zombie, really, more than the old zombie. So yeah, there's, like I said, it's interesting, and I think I might consider having a bunch of prisoner aliens in my tabletop simulator edition, because there's no rules. We can do whatever we want in TTS. So I might convert a bunch of these into aliens that we can get in there. But I think prisoners is still a pretty interesting variant that you can do, even if you don't do these. So if you have ever played with the prisoner variant, let me know what you think of it. Did you insist on using the prisoner aliens, or were you just playing a game where you are every 1 in 3-ish encounters, instead of those ships going to the warp, they are captured? It is an interesting dynamic. It doesn't have a huge effect on the game, especially because most of your encounters are not going to be capture encounters where you will be taking prisoners. But when it does come up, I think one of the things that it does is that it has players reconsider sending a lot of ships into the encounter, especially when they know those ships are going to be out of commission for a while. But the good part about that, though, of having your ships getting captured, is it lets you make these deals. So the games where you have prisoners can often be much quicker games because you're dealing, and it doesn't replace the encounter. You make the deal, and then you proceed with the encounter anyway. So you could get an encounter out of the deal, and then you could make another deal as part of the encounter. So each of those players could get 2 encounters. You could get 4 colonies. You could get 4 colonies on your turn as the offense if you've got a bunch of prisoners and you were lucky enough to draw basically a hazard warning, or if you have special prisoner destiny cards in your destiny deck, then that would be what sets that off. So, like I said, let me know what you think of this variant, and if you try it out, let me know what you think of it after you try it out. Is it something you'd like to see officially as part of Fantasy Flight's edition of Cosmic Encounter, and how would you feel about having prisoners as an official variant, but with no prisoner aliens, or maybe an alien in the set that can be used in prisoners, but somehow magically works without them? You could certainly have, there are aliens that capture ships, so you could have one that does that, but it has a little bit more if it's a prisoner variant is in play. Or maybe the alien makes it a prisoner variant. It adds that variant to the game. That could be an idea. Let me know your thoughts. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.